I stood up and I walked to the drawing board and I drew it all out. Not just a list of tasks, but the interdependencies, the milestones, the deliberate pauses where we stop and assess what's happened and decide what to do next. And when I finished, the program director looked at me and said, "James, if this is how our plans are going to look, you are hired." And in that moment, I'd gone from 19,000 a year to 60,000 a year. And I'm going to show you how I did it. My name is James Bailey, and I've been working in project management for over 2 decades, starting as a graduate trainee and working my way up to associate director, delivering billions of pounds worth of value through central government, civil service, the police, and the space agency. I'm also an accredited Prince 2 trainer and the founder of Prepare to Lead, which is a project management learning community to help project professionals advance their career strategically. Now, I'm telling you this not to impress you, but so that you know what I'm about to share matters. So, let's get into it. First, let me give you a little bit of background. At the time, I'd been working for Unisys. I'd been there for about 3 years, and I'd focused a lot of my attention on project planning. Now, I took every internal course that was available to me, and then studied everything available on Microsoft Project and all of the methodologies, as my intention was to become so good that my boss couldn't ignore me. And that paid off. He actually gave me permission to plan every single project within his remit. And I did, plan after plan after plan, and I kind of got pretty good at it. And then I saw a job advertised at Compact Computers for a program planner, much higher grade than I was currently operating at. So I applied anyway. To my surprise, I got an interview. That was it. I had 2 weeks to land this job. Here's what I did with those 2 weeks. I looked at every single project I'd planned to understand not only what went right, but what went wrong and what lessons I'd learned. So to give you a little bit of context, there was this particular project I'd planned meticulously well, and it was being delivered on time, until one architect delivered his work 2 weeks early. Brilliant! Except the next piece of work scheduled wasn't to his skill set. Now, he knew this, and I knew that I hadn't planned for it. So I learned a very big lesson that day, and that was, you don't just plan for effort and for time, you have to plan for skill. And the impact of that rippled all the way through to the end of the project. Now, this type of lesson learned is important because when you share that with an interviewer, they trust you because it is real, it is specific, and it demonstrates that you think about more than just the tasks. The second thing I did was try to anticipate what questions the interviewer would ask me. The typical questions like, tell me about your experience and why should we pick you for the job, and what does a good plan look like? Now the latter, I didn't plan a good answer for. I planned a demonstration. So what I did was take the Prince 2 methodology and draw out what a Prince 2 plan would look like. And I rehearsed it so I could draw it while talking and demonstrating. Because I knew that when they asked me that question, I could present and communicate, then control that interview from that point forward. On the day of the interview, they asked me those typical questions. Then fundamentally, what does a good project plan look like? And it's at that point I said, let me show you. And this is what I drew. This whiteboard represents our program. So we have a start and we have a finish. Now, before we commence any work on our program or project, we have external dependencies, and these are usually outside of our control, but they are normally decisions, approvals, For example, a business case. Now, our work within the project would sit here. And some of this work is driven by these dependencies, and some is driven by work within the project. But when they complete, they will complete an output. Now, each piece of work would have a duration, would have an effort, and it would have a resource, for example, an architect. Now, if we take the cost of that resource and we multiply it by the effort, it will give us the cost of that work. And the duration will give us the spread of that cost. Now, within a project, there are usually multiple work packages being delivered by your teams, and they are independent. And they will be driven by the external dependencies, by work or deliverables from another work package, but they will have their own output. And these outputs will feed into a deliverable. Which could be a point to stop, which we would call a stage. Now, a stage is a point where the board needs more information to assess the uncertainty of risk. Now, that can be driven by a particular event, like a deliverable, or even a point in time, like a new prime minister at the end of an election. But the point of a stage is for us to stop and ask ourselves, what have we delivered? Has anything changed? And should we continue? And we're asking if we can continue to the next stage. Now, we plan in stages. So this first stage has more information, but as we work through that stage, we'll be adding more detail to the next stage. And then the stages after that would have even less detail, but they have enough detail for us to know where we're going. Now, none of this happens in isolation. There's usually more than one project happening at the same time that follows the same structure, that has its own dependencies, its own outputs, and its own deliverables and stages, and may be dependent upon work from another project. Now above this level sits our program. Now, the program isn't interested in individual tasks, but it is interested in individual events and points. So if we take one of those points, like our deliverable, and we lock in that as a milestone, we now have a baseline. And if that deliverable now moves, we can clearly see it. Now, to control that deliverable, we set tolerances, and tolerances are time, cost, and risk. And if we deviate or exceed those tolerances, that's when intervention happens. Now, we also get risk at task level. I like it. If I've got a particular task, and my pens are not working, if I've got a particular task that has significant risk, I like to put that risk on my plan. And I would link that to my risk register, where I can see what it is, what the impact is, and the probability. And it allows me to see what deliverables and stages are directly impacted by that risk. Now, when we step back and we see the plan as a whole, we can now clearly see what our dependencies are, what each project and work package is delivering, what our pauses and stages are throughout the life cycle of the program, and of course where our risk sits. And then how all of this now feeds up into the program. Now, this is all connected. We can now map our critical path. And that's important because it allows us to find the shortest route from where we are to where we're going. So should we need to accelerate a piece of work, we now know where to focus, because that is where time and cost is most likely to be impacted. And it's at this point that the program director then stood up and said, James, if this is what our plans are going to look like, you're hired. And I knew from that point, I just increased my income from 19,000 to 60,000. And it wasn't because I was smarter than any of the other candidates. It was because I was able to demonstrate that I could operate at that level. I could show how I was going to do that work, and I could communicate that clearly. So if you're working in project management, you're support or project manager, or like me, just a junior planner, and you want to move up in your role, the gap from where you are now and where you want to go isn't necessarily intelligence or experience. It's the ability to demonstrate that you can work at that next level and communicate that effectively. And for me, using the Prince2 framework of the planning practice gave me the ability to do that in that interview. And that's why in the next video, I'm going to break down what Prince2 is, and not just as a methodology, but what it actually means to your career and how it can actually help you move forward when given the opportunity.